Everybody here for Love and Hip Hop. Atlanta season 5, episode 2. Let's get right into it. It continued from where it left off last week with Tommy and Tiara finally being face to face. And Tiara is just basically talking about her career and how she works for a firm and during the day, but she works at a club at night as a bottle girl. And Tommy basically asked her, well, when are you a mom? And that just came out of left field. So Tiara, of course, when somebody threatens your parenthood, you feel some kind of way. You're like a lioness. I know. So, Tiara's like, how dare she ask me about being a mom? I'm a mom all day, every day. So what is she talking about? So, she's like, why are you asking me this question? She was like, you don't know my life. Do you know my life? She was like, well, I do know your life because I know your kid and I know your baby daddy. And she's like, well, who are you? She's like, listen, I know your baby daddy because I sit on his face every other night. And I'm like, oh, Lord. So here you got Carly and Jessica sitting there like, oh, this is messy. So the next thing you know, I think Tommy threw her drink and they just started scrapping. So next thing you know, they fight and Tommy ends up on the floor. The girl ain't got no panties on. I'm like, what is up with these Love and Hip Hop chicks not wearing panties? Like, I mean, I know y'all come to these places not expecting to fight. But come on, Kimbella of Atlanta. Come on. Why are you not wearing panties at an event where cameras are? Maybe that's why you're not wearing panties. Because you wanted VH1 to see your Hello Kitty. So now we get to Kirk and Rashida, and they're basically saying that their living arrangement sucks because they moved out of their previous home because they're waiting for their new home that they're building to finish being built. So they're all in the Buckhead apartment, living together. But, the living arrangement sucks, but it's very convenient because it's right by, Rashida's store. And, it's very convenient in the area that they're in. So, Rashida is discussing Mimi's party and how Mimi announced that she was dating Chris, who's a girl. And she said she didn't know about the two girls who was fighting or whatever, but she just know that Carly and Dom was a part of it and invited the girls there. Then she goes to discussing Mama D about how she came and she put the hay on the floor, which that lady is bipolar. And, Kirk feels like, well, why is, I'm just hearing that word on the street is that Scrappy has a problem with us or whatever, and I need to speak to him because for him to send his mother to my place of business, that's a problem for me. So he's like, I check up on this business every now and again, and I saw on camera Mama D putting the hay and stuff on the floor. That's bad for business. So he's like, I'm going to go talk to Scrappy because they don't need to be addressing you. If they have any problems, they need to address me. So, Rashida was like, okay, I'll leave it in your hands. So, Tiara is going to the studio to meet up with Scrap. And her right middle finger is like bandaged or whatever. I guess it was broken. And then her wrist was wrapped or whatever. I'm like, Lord, these chicks, she done broke the girl finger and, done broke her wrist. Like, it's just ridiculous. So, Tiara said that she had to go to urgent care because she had a broken finger. And, she goes to approach Scrap and ask him about Tommy and how long they've been together. And he finally admits that him and Tommy been messing around for a year. And, she hits him. She's pissed off because she's like, you've been lying to me this whole time, making me think that we're working on our relationship when you have a whole other relationship going on with our relationship. So, Scrap, he's upset because he's like, I was able to keep these women apart for a year. Now, ish done hit the fan. I'm like, well, duh. What's done in the dark comes to the light. I don't know why y'all think y'all gotta have y'all cake and eat it too. I mean, I know you're supposed to eat cake, but you men, y'all get hella greedy. Instead of having a slice, y'all want the whole damn tear. So she gave him an ultimatum. She said, until you fix this, you will not be seeing your son. I hate when women use children as a pawn, but hey, do what you do, whatever. So Mimi, Arian, and Chris are together, and they're all helping Mimi pack to move into her new house, and they talk about defining their relationship, and Arian is like, well, y'all are lesbians now, and Chris is like, whoa, pump your brakes. Technically speaking, Mimi is not a lesbian, and Mimi is like, well, listen, I identify myself as female. Chris identifies herself as male. So technically speaking, we're not in a lesbian relationship. And, you know, Chris is like, well, I was born at, I think she said Grady Hospital or something like that. And I just feel like things are confungled. You know, I just feel like I'm a male trapped in a woman's body, which is how most transgenders feel, which is not a problem. You know, people like to have labels. People just need to start living in their truth. If you feel like you are a male trapped in a female's body, hey, do what you do to make yourself happy. If you feel like you are a female trapped in a male's body, do what you feel like making yourself, you know, what makes you happy. If you, however you feel, live your truth, sisters and brothers. Live it, okay? Because ain't nobody else going to live your life for you, and you need to be happy. That's what you need to focus on. So, Arian's asking sexual questions and whatnot. And, you know, she getting deep and vulgar with it. So Chris is like, well, you know, it's Arian. I give her a pass. You know, her sensitivity chip is not, you know, installed. So I let her rock just as long as she don't disrespect me. But, you know, I do have certain rules when it comes to sex. You know, I have this thing called touch me nots where they touch. I don't want, you know, to be touched in areas that reminds me that I'm a female, you know. But, you know, I don't receive, or something like that, she said. And I'm like, well, hey, you know, whatever makes you happy, boo. Whatever makes you happy. Jock and Scrappy are at the radio station, and they're basically doing a tell-all interview and introducing, you know, their new music. So Scrappy is basically discussing his businesses, but of course, they're asking about his personal business with Bambi, and he's like, I'm hurting, I'm not with Bambi anymore. But he's like, you know, I have a modeling company called Aggressive Girls, and every woman I touch, they blossom like a flower. And I'm like, okay, Scrappy. So, you know, he wants to bring Jock on, but Jock is like, well, you know, I really want to, you know, if I work with you, I really want to get at Taylor. You know, Taylor is Scrappy's assistant. Scrappy doesn't really want him to go there because that's business. But, you know, Jock is a member of the Creep Squad, and, you know, Jock can't, women are his kryptonite, basically. Jock always get himself in trouble when it come to women. So now we go to D. Smith. They introduce D. Smith, and D. Smith is a writer, artist, and, you know, now a little part-time model. And there's a fashion show going on. Bambi was walking in it. Mimi, Rashida, and Tammy get there just to, you know, sit in the front and watch. Like I said, Bambi is a model, and Tammy is basically scouting girls for her clothing line. And she sees, you know, she sees D. Smith, and she's like, she's really, really pretty. She's very tall. She's beautiful. I think I would like to use her to model my clothes. So while they go out for drinks or whatever, and they're discussing the modeling and everything, D. Smith is meeting up with her friend Betty Idol. And Betty Idol is, I guess, a rapper, a singer, I don't know. But she's somebody that worked closely with Scrappy, making a track or whatever. And she tells D. Smith, yeah, you know, I saw Bambi clickety clacking down the runway, you know, like a horse. I didn't want her horseshoe to hit me. Just basically throwing shade at Bambi and throwing shade at Tammy, because D. Smith was like, well, I didn't really see you at the event. She was like, yeah, I didn't really care to stay long because, you know, just a couple of people there I didn't really, you know, look forward to seeing. And that was basically Tammy and Bambi. And she feels like, Waka Flocka made this like ignorant comment about Caitlyn Jenner, and about how you know, just something ignorant he said about transgender, and she took offense to it. So you know, D. Smith is like, well, I really hope that's not the truth, but I mean, I guess we'll have to see. So KK and Tommy meet up, and basically Tommy is reporting to KK everything that happened between her and Tierra, and you know, she let her know, like, this is what happened between me and her or whatever. So remember when I said in the last video that I felt like the issue that KK has with Tierra is a deep-rooted issue? It is. And I was seeing this over the weekend, like this whole week. It's like people as soon as these people get on TV, people dig deep for the facts. So basically, KK and her sons have legal issues with Scrap and Sass's dad. And they were accused of trying to kill or trying to hurt the dad or something like that. And her sons got locked up. While they were locked up, she went on the run. She was basically trying to get money up to bail them out and for lawsuits and whatnot. So while all of this was going on, everything that she was telling Tierra was running back and telling the feds. So I think it was the feds or the cops, whoever. So when KK was caught, she went on a run. She was captured, but then she was vindicated of all charges. So ever since then, she's hated Tierra, which is why she's trying to get Tierra away from Scrap and all. But I'm like, you can't really do that because Scrap and Tierra have a baby together. Like, no matter how much you hate that girl, she's the mother of your grandson. So you just have to deal. She's going to be in your life for the rest of your life. You don't have to deal with her on a personal level because she is no family to you, but she is family to Scrap. So it's something you got to deal with. And I don't know, like, KK and her family, they sound like they notorious. But I mean, according to Jock and everybody that saw them at the Dollar Memorial, they are a notorious family. And I'm like, okay. So now we get to the Girls Who Girls modeling call, and Scrap and Jock are working together, and Jock going to talk to Taylor, and he gave her this corny, tell me look at here. I just wanted to talk so you get to know you a little better, and even hearing it, now and again I could, treat you to a manicure and a pedicure sometime. I'm like, this is the cheesiest pickup line I have ever heard. But okay, I guess it worked. Because Taylor was trying to avoid talking to him. But he's like, just take my number. Call me. We could set something up. I'm like, Jock, you don't need to be talking to nobody. You don't need to make her baby mama number 5. Just leave it alone. You got enough kids. You got a whole football team. Just stop. So Kirk arrives. And he talks to Jock. And, Scrap is like, I don't know why he here. I ain't invite him or whatever. So, Kirk basically said he put Mama D on blast when he went to the VIP section. And he was like, yeah, she came and she, was acting dramatic in my store. So I wanted to know what happened. And, Scrap is like, didn't I tell you not to do nothing? I told you I would handle it. And she's like, no, see, what happened was... What she said? She said something crazy. I forgot, but Mama D is just so dramatic. Like, somebody needs to give her a role on a TV show, like on a drama or something, because Mama D is dramatic, and then she got more than one personality. Like, that lady scares me sometimes. So Scrappy basically says that he's hurt that Kirk and Rashida didn't at least call him and say, yo, I can't make it to your court appearance, but good luck or whatever. If you would have gave me a phone call, I would have been good. Kirk was like, he had told Scrappy prior to them leaving that they had another engagement to do the day of. But I guess Scrappy didn't care, whatever. He just wanted them there. And he's like, why would you want us to testify against Erica anyway, knowing that Erica and Rashida are cool? I'm like, yeah, that's putting them all in a sticky situation. So they basically, Scrappy was offended and basically told Kirk, to leave. And Kirk was like, all right, whatever, I'm leaving. So I'm like, oh, well, womp. I guess you'll get over it. So D Smith goes to meet up with Tammy because Tammy, I guess, called her wanting to know if she would model in her clothing line. So, tired. Sorry. So D Smith reveals that she's actually transitioning from male to female for a year. And, Tammy is like, wow, I would have never guessed. But you know what? I think you're beautiful. Live your truth. And I would love for you to model in my clothes. So, D. Smith was like, well, it's one little thing that's bothering me that I heard. Like, I read the interview, about Waka saying, comments about Caitlyn Jenner that just didn't sit right with me. And she's like, no, it wasn't meant to be an attack. What happened was we have, when the whole thing happened with Caitlyn Jenner, I have a 10-year-old daughter who came and asked what a transgender was, and, she was Googling it, and sometimes it's certain things that parents don't want their kids knowing. I get where Tammy is coming from, but at the same time, it's a new day. And it's like, certain things you have to give time before you explain it to a kid. So you explain it as best as you can. But if you keep putting it off and you keep ignoring it and avoiding it, that's what makes the kid ignorant, because they go seeking information from people who don't know what they're talking about. Like, okay, for instance, if she wouldn't have came to them and asked them what a transgender was, she could have went to somebody in her school and they could have told her, oh, a transgender person is somebody who don't know who they are, or they're gay. Or, like, they could have gave her any crazy definition, and she could have took that in her mind, because at the age of 10, their minds are still being molded. She could have took that in her mind and be like, oh, well, transgender people, I don't want no parts of that. Like, it could have just been something negative. So I think as a parent, Tammy should have been like, well, this is what a transgender person is. And sometimes with kids, you have to give it to them real raw and uncut. You can't sugarcoat it, because life isn't sugarcoated. So, Tammy could have came, she could have figured out an approach to explain that to her kids. But I didn't really like her explanation for it either, but as long as she's not homophobic and she's not saying a negative comment, D. Smith was like, okay. So, basically, like I said, Tammy was like, live your truth, but I would love to work with you. And D. Smith was like, well, I'll just, I'll think about it, because this is a touchy situation. So then we get to Tommy and Scrap. And Tommy is pissed at Scrap. Scrap comes, and she barely even wanted to open the door for him. He brings her flowers and a gift or something like that. She took it and she threw it on the floor and walked away. So, she's standing in the kitchen and she's like, I'm pissed off at you because you still messing around with this girl. You have not told her about me, and I'm pissed off at you. She was like, I have the right to be mad, and you can't tell me how I feel or what I feel. And he's like, listen, you need some time. I understand this. I understand you're upset. You need time. I'm gonna give you time. So, Tommy's standing there pissed off. And then next thing you know, she did like a complete 180 and was like, well, let me walk you to that door because you don't understand. She came at me. And I'm like, Tommy, you was just throwing roses at him. And now you sitting here crying. But I understood her frustration. So he admitted to Tommy that he still sleeps with Tierra. And Tommy feels betrayed. And, Tommy is like, you know what? Just go. So, Scrap is like, well, I just, ruined everything. So I just got to figure all of this out because Ish is hitting the fan now. I'm like, yeah, you put yourself in this situation because you could have told both these girls the truth a long time ago. That's your fault. So now we get to the last scene with D. Smith, Betty, and Tammy. And Betty is throwing all kinds of shade at Tammy. And she's like, I don't even understand why I'm sitting here because I would never model in her clothing line. Her and her homophobic husband. I can't deal. So Tammy comes in and, she says hi. Betty says hi to her. D. Smith says hi to her. So she's like, D. Smith is asking about the clothing line. She's like, yeah, it's going really good. We're actually doing a shoot for Black Man magazine. I would love for you to come. We're having a Black Man magazine cover party. And I want you guys to come. So Betty feels like, she basically went in and was like, I feel like Walker is rude for saying what he said about the transgender community. And, Tammy is like, listen, I already had this conversation with D. Smith. What he said wasn't rude. His comments and his opinion is his opinion, just like I'm sure you have opinion that nobody agrees with. And she's like, well, everybody loves my opinion. And she's like, whatever. So Betty is basically trying to point out Tammy's relevance. And Tammy is like, well, what's your relevance? I've been working. I'm a mother. I have my own business. What do you do? And I'm like, right. And I remember one of my followers, Only Lil No Key, he said, listen, I Googled Betty Idol, and the only thing that popped up was Love and Hip Hop ATL. And I'm like, right, because nobody knows who she is, nor did we care who she was before she popped up on the screen. Still don't care, even after she's on the screen. It looked like she just here to stir the pot. So D. Smith is just sitting there like, well, I want titties, Can I get titties for one? Titties for one. I want your titties. I want your titties. You get a titty. You get a titty. So I'm like, okay. So, Betty's still trying to poke at Tammy's relevancy and whatnot. They going back and forth. And you know, Tammy is like, listen, security, y'all better come and get her before I hurt her. So Betty said something out of left field. Tammy threw her drink and they started fighting, and then that's when it went off. And I'm like, oh Lord. So you know, next episode, Mimi tells Stevie that she has a girlfriend, and it continues to fight with Tammy and Betty. And I guess something with Scrap, Tommy, and Tierra or whatever. But next episode like, is going to be a mess too. But this was a good episode. It was funny as hell. It was a good episode. So you guys let me know how you feel. As usual, like, comment, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And I will see you guys next video. Later.